Hello everyone, Steve here, back again with another tabletop baseball video. So tonight I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my 1972 Pittsburgh Pirates replay. I did a previous video about this, and basically I started out with the intention of playing the whole replay with payoff pitch. And I described that at the time and my setup and so on. More recently, I decided to take a different approach, which I'm going to talk about here in a minute, which is basically to use multiple sims in this replay. So without further ado, let's go to the next page. So this thing has kind of gotten out of control, to be honest. So I've had several sims kind of laying around of different seasons and so on. And I got this idea that, hey, maybe the best way to learn about these sims and see if there are some that I want to play for the long term is to work them into the replay. So that's what I'm doing. But creating this list and expanding this list and getting ready to do or continue the replay has turned into a project in and of itself. What I will do here is briefly get down the list here of what I'm thinking about using for the replay. We already talked about payoff pitch. I did the first 25 games of the replay with payoff pitch. I felt like I got a pretty good handle on the game. I don't think I would play the game or enjoy it as much if I didn't have the fast action cards, because the thought of digging into all the charts to resolve plays would just not be that appealing to me. Otherwise, I really like the basic game engine of payoff pitch, and we'll probably play it again in some form or another in the future. Season ticket baseball is a game that I have read a lot about. I've kind of admired it from afar. And so what I did is I went ahead and bought the PDF of the 1972 season. I wanted to really buy a physical printed set, and I still wish I had that opportunity, but I couldn't find one. The big issue I have, and I might have said this in another video, is I cannot get the cards to print the way they're set up to print, I guess, basically. So if you print them on the perforated cardstock, they're not centered, and the OCD in me it really drives me nuts. I went ahead and printed 2 teams out on cardstock and cut them up myself, but that was an equal disaster. There's no cut lines. It just didn't work out. But I'll talk more about season ticket here in a minute. Batter Up. Batter Up is a game from the mid 70s, and I've done lots of videos about that. The difference here for Batter Up is I'm using what I call Batter Up Reimagined, and that's where I've taken the game and converted it so that it's played with 3 D10 dice. And there is a separate video on that on my channel if you're curious. But I'm really enjoying that version of Batter Up, and I think a lot of other people are as well. And so I'm looking forward to using that one again. I've done a lot of work the last few years on Sports Illustrated baseball. Sports Illustrated did have a 1972 set it was actually in card form. I think it was called Pennant Race at that time. There are some issues with that, particularly in the early days of Sports Illustrated. They really didn't get the pitcher cards right. What I did is actually I created 2 teams in the reimagined format using my own card generation program. And so I'm all set to play, I think, Pirates versus Reds 1972 when that pops up on the schedule. Long ball. I've done videos on long ball, spent a lot of time on that over the last probably year and a half or so. Um, I do have the Pirates and another team that I made myself for long ball, but another person on the long ball Facebook page actually produced the entire 1972 season. So I'll be using probably my own long ball cards for that part of the replay, and maybe some of his as well. That very same person mailed to me at no cost to me a 1972 set of stratomatic baseball, and um, I will be working stratomatic into my replay. Strat is a game I'm very familiar with generally because I used it I referred to it all the way back in the mid 70s, late 70s when I was building my own sim. I've read a lot about it. I've hardly ever played it, so this will be interesting to play it. I will probably play the advanced game, um, and maybe that's a good time to make a point. For most of these games, you know, I'm probably not going to become an expert in all the intricacies of the rules, and so there may be times where I play a more basic version of some of these games, or occasionally take a shortcut here or there. But so be it. Replay baseball. I did buy a 1972 set for replay baseball. I have some familiarity with that. I did do a video on replay. Um, I was able to find a 72 set on the secondary market. I won't be doing that part of the replay for several months though. History Maker Baseball is another game that I've done a lot of research on and reading about. Um, I had a different friend make me a set of 1972 National League cards, so I will be working that into the rotation. The one difference is that I came up with my own set of rules uh, to allow the pitcher to positively or negatively affect home runs allowed, uh, at least in a different way than the current game does. So we'll see how that works out. Status Pro Advanced. I do know a lot about traditional Status Pro. I have my own spreadsheet to make cards, but I do admire Status Pro Advanced and what Derek Beckner has done there. So I think I did an unboxing video recently, but I do have the 1972 cards for that, so that should be interesting to use those. A more recent diversion is this KSP Pro Baseball. It was made in the early 80s, early to mid 80s by Dave Cook, KOCH. And I came across this game from a friend, and he kind of asked me if I thought I could reverse engineer it. I poked around at it for a few weeks. Finally, I guess a light bulb went on or whatever, and I figured out that I could reverse engineer it, which I did. I'm sure it took me 40 to 60 hours to get it to where it needed to be. I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. I'm not so sure I'll like playing the game, but I did make the 1972 Pirates, and I'm making the 1972 Astros. So when the Astros come up again in the replay, I'll use KSP as the game engine. Uh, I did get permission from Dave for us to produce uh, teams for this game engine and publish them on our Facebook page, which I'll give a link here in the description and on the next page. But that's been a recent diversion. Time Travel Baseball is a game that I have some interest in, um, and I did find uh, it's probably a homebrew set of 1972 time travel cards, so I will play a little bit of time travel. Uh, with those cards. I did create an Excel dice roller that should simplify the actual gameplay. That's uploaded actually on the Time Travel Facebook page. And then I've studied ballpark baseball a bit in the past. I've done a few videos. Um, just recently, ballpark baseball came back on the market as so-called version 3. There's a new rule book, although I think basically the game works the way it used to, and the cards look different. So I bought the playbook, which is $15, and I bought the 72 Pirates and the 72 Mets. So when the Mets come up, I'll play at least one series with ballpark baseball. I think it's $4 a team. All the materials and team cards come in PDF form. They no longer offer printed cards. I've done a little work trying to learn a little bit about pine tar baseball in the last couple of weeks. There's an outside chance I might try to do pine tar in this replay if I can get my hands on some cards. It dawned on me this morning when I was watching another video that I hadn't even considered apba, but I do have the game components. So if I can find a 1972 Pirates apba set and a 1972 set from some other National League team like the Cubs or somebody, particularly with the master symbols on them, then I might try a few games of apba. Inside Pitch just came out with their advanced version. I had not planned on using Inside Pitch in this replay. I may reconsider using the advanced version, but that remains to be seen. I would love to use Deep Drive Baseball in this replay, but they don't have a 1972 set. So that is that. In terms of the replay itself, I've played 33 games so far. As I said, the first 25 games were with Payoff Pitch. 26 through 30 was Batter Up Reimagined, which was a game against the Cardinals and then a series against the Expos. And then these last couple days, I did a 3-game series with the Pirates against the Cardinals using season ticket baseball, which is my first foray into season ticket. Interestingly, the Pirates' record is identical to what it was in real life through 33 games. Now you can see if you look at the individual rows, the Pirates did much better than real life in the Payoff Pitch era, but a little worse in the Batter Up Reimagined, and probably for a 3-game series season ticket, you can't really say much. One interesting thing you see here is in terms of runs scored and runs allowed by the Pirates, the Sims are much lower in total for both of those. I don't know why, but you can see scoring was a lot lower for, particularly for Payoff Pitch. And then just the last Batter Up Reimagined and Season Ticket Baseball, the Pirates actually pitching is kind of getting pounded. In this latest Season Ticket Baseball series, 3-game series, Pirates lost pretty big in the first and third game, but in the second game, they won 3-2 on the back of a 2-hitter thrown by Bob Moose, albeit that it took 10 innings to finish that game. So I can't make too many conclusions about season ticket after 3 games, but I will say that there has been some few interesting things. Like the first game had at least 3 infield singles, which I thought was interesting. This last game had 3 or 4 wild pitches and a pass ball. Yeah, 4 wild pitches and a pass ball, which was kind of interesting. I wouldn't read too much into it, quite frankly, um, but just some interesting observations. I am going to talk about season ticket a little bit, um, but if you see the third link here, which will be in the description, if you want to learn more about season ticket baseball, watch this guy's tutorial video. His tutorial videos are by far the best I've ever seen, um, because he does a true tutorial. He doesn't try to teach you as the game is going on, and I just honestly think it's a better approach, or he pulls it off better. So I'm not going to try to do a tutorial, but I'm going to talk a little bit about the game itself on the next couple slides. Um, you can buy season ticket. You see the Sports Mogul link there, and then there's the Batter Up page where we store files for uh, Batter Up Reimagined, KSP Baseball Now, um, and a few other games. Please like the video if you like it. If you don't like it, fine. Just make a comment. Make a comment either way. And then if you want to subscribe to get more notifications of my videos, feel free to do that, but no pressure there. Season ticket baseball. So I've got a pitcher card, a batter card. Steve Carlton had a decent year in 1972, which is kind of an understatement. So season ticket, it's not a 50-50 game, although you can see it has its roots kind of in a 50-50 game, because if you roll one d6 and two d10s, and the d6 is what directs the play, and so 1 or 2 on the d6 is going to put you either in the 100 column or the 200 columns and the pitcher card, and 3 and 4 is going to put you in the 300 column or the 400 columns of the batter card. And the 100 and 300 columns have no splits, but the 200 and 400 columns do have splits. So it is evenly balanced, even though it's not technically a 50-50 game. So 5 sends you to a defense check, and 6 has you checking the stadium card. A couple other things you see here on the card that I've highlighted in green, and I think the main one is there is some interaction between the pitcher card and the batter card through what I think they call redirection rolls, and this kind of solves some of the inherent limitations that you'll find in a 50-50 game, even though, again, this isn't technically 50-50, but some of the same concepts apply where through these redirection rolls, like let's say you rolled a 321 on Carlton's card. I'm sorry, a 121 on Carlton's card. Instead of having a result, you would go over to Stargell's card and read 321, and in this case, it would be a strikeout. I fully understand the mechanics of how this works, but I haven't fully internalized in my head why it works. I've got a general idea. For example, the 300 column on the batter card starts out with strikeouts, and the 400 column on the card starts out with walks. And so I think these redirections are ways to make sure the outliers are properly taken care of in terms of strikeouts and walks. But if anybody has a better explanation, feel free to let me know. I have absolutely zero intention of reverse engineering season ticket baseball. It's a good product. I have the highest respect for Clay, who produces the game, And that respect is in a couple, maybe three factors. First factor is he's designed a uh, very good game here. It's very compact in terms of its footprint, but it's very deep and wide in terms of the complexity that it offers, the realism, I guess I would say. Um, the second thing is he, I believe, has really thought a lot about the math. And so I have a certain level of confidence that this is a really accurate sim, whatever that means to you. Um, and then the third thing is if people have questions about the game or the cards or what have you, he is on record in several cases of explaining the rationale for what he does with his cards. And maybe I'll talk a little bit more about that at the end, but I have a lot of respect for somebody who will more or less explain how he got to where he got with the game. I've highlighted a couple more things real quick. On the 200 and 400 sections, there are some uh, deep fly ball results, and we'll see where that takes you in a minute. But obviously that gives a chance in the case of pitchers to control how many home runs they give up. Um, and then to some extent the batter. And I've also highlighted up above Willie Stargell's power rating. It's a 9. I've seen them as low as 0. Obviously, Stargell was a power hitter, and we'll see how that works into it in a minute. So, defense. So I said when you roll a 5, it triggers a defensive check. And so let's say um, the roll of 565 was rolled. So the 5 says it's a defensive check. The 6 says it's the shortstop, and then the X is the ones digit. So I said, what did I say? 565. So here we have 2 Pirates shortstop, 565 in that green box. 565 would trigger a ground ball potential 6-4-3 double play on Alley's card. He was the better shortstop that year. But on Hernandez's card, 565 triggers a single. And it really threw me for a loop in the first game when I was getting hits off of the defensive checks. But I got used to it, and I think it makes a little bit of sense. And so I'm sure it implicitly embodies both an error rate and a range rating of some sort embedded in there. So if you look at Alley, there's out of the 10 rolls of 560 to 569, 60% of his are double plays. He has no, fielder's choice or whatever, 6-3 ground outs. It's not really fielder's choice. 20% singles and 20% errors. In contrast, you have Jackie Hernandez. He only has 20% double plays, 30% regular ground outs. But if there was a runner on first, he would advance to second. And then 10% singles and then 40% errors. So, it's kind of interesting. Speaking of Jackie Hernandez, he got quite a bit of playing time in 1971 when Pirates won the World Series. In fact, he played at least Game 7. I forget what other games he. So Earl Weaver said about Jackie Hernandez, the Pirates will never win a World Series with Jackie Hernandez playing shortstop. But Pirates did win a World Series with Jackie Hernandez playing shortstop, and Jackie Hernandez fielded the final out for a 6-3 putout. But that said, Jackie did not do well in 1972. either offensively or defensively. On the other hand, Allie, who was one of the best shortstops in the 60s, was getting a little older. So maybe shortstop wasn't the 72 Pirates uh, fielding strength. Now, if the 5 roll has a 0 as the second digit, as the tens digit, instead of going to a fielding check, you actually go to this rare play section of the playbook, and it goes on for several pages. Some of the pages are uh, specific to the runner on base situation. The one you see here is a more generic one. I calculate that if 1 out of 6 rolls is a 5 or a defensive check, and then 10% of those rolls are rare plays, that means about 1.7% of plate appearances are going to be rare plays or rare play checks. And I think that works out to, I forget what it was, 1, 2, or 3 um, times per game that you might go to the rare plays. Now, you can stop the video and read here. This is the first page of the first rare play table. And you can kind of see they are rare plays, but in some ways they kind of aren't. You get some injuries in here. You get some hit by pitches in this page. You get some unique runner advancement situations and obligated to challenge the arm rating of, say, the outfielder or the infielder. Potential errors can come here. Just a lot of different stuff. I haven't read every single page of the rare plays, but they go on and on and on. I'm generally not a fan of rare plays, but I think they may work here in this game. Rolls of 6 or the 600 series come off of the stadium card. And since I was playing the Cardinals, it was held in Busch Stadium. So you can see in the bottom left here, there's just a lot of regular outs that come off of this card. But when you get up into the higher numbers, that's where you get some hits, and you potentially get a deep fly ball that will then potentially turn into a home run if you look at the deep drive table on the right. And the deep drive table uses the 2d10 dice plus the power rating of the batter, and that's how you determine the result of the deep drive. The other interesting thing is if the home team is batting, you add 10 to the dice roll, so 67, which would normally be a ground ball to shortstop, would actually become 677, which would actually turn into a wild pitch. So that's how they get a little bit of home field advantage into the game. That is really all I had for the slides. But what I was going to say is, there are a few cases where I've read that certain things in season ticket baseball just don't feel logical and or intuitive. And those cases are where Clay has come out and explained his rationale. For the most part, I think his rationale makes sense to me. And again, I have really the highest respect for his game and his designing abilities. I did read a month or two ago an interesting kind of controversial thread. It might have been in Delphi. I can't find it again. But it was basically talking about players with few appearances, so-called low sample sizes, and players with splits that were not the traditional platoon splits, left, right advantage, and so on. And there is something that's in season ticket that was really bothering this person. But basically, what is carded for these low appearance players may not be uh, directly from their stats. Uh, there may be some sort of adjustment or normalization toward the league average that is going on, so that you don't have true oddball performances that most likely were driven by um, just a small sample size. Um, I think I think for true low sample size players, I don't mind that idea. Uh, to be frank, in terms of splits and reverse splits, I'm a little less sympathetic to the approach. But I thought it would be worthwhile in case that's something that's really important to you, like it was to this one guy who was like a dog on a pant leg. He wouldn't let it go. If something like that is really important to you, then do some more research, decide what you want to do. This video has gone on way too long, so I'm going to stop now. Thanks for listening, and look forward to future updates as this project continues. Take care.